Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? And welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. My name is TJ Jones. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Well, Who Dat Nation, on this edition, we will be talking about running back Mark Ingram. Now, we all know that Mark Ingram is an unrestricted free agent. That means that he is open to sign with any team he so rightfully pleases. And a lot of people in the Who Dat Nation are asking the question, will the New Orleans Saints re-sign Mark Ingram? And I asked the question on the State of the Saints podcast Facebook page, and a lot of people were saying, yes, they should sign Mark Ingram back. It's a no-brainer. That's a crazy question. Why would you ask a question like that? But I think that it's a question that needs to be discussed, because this is a real question, rather you and the Who Dat Nation want to admit it or see it or not. Mark Ingram is a free agent, and there is a real good chance that the New Orleans Saints may not sign him back. And I want to talk to the Who Dat Nation before I get into this question, because I want you to understand something. I want you all to understand something out there, the ones that are saying that it's a no-brainer. Look, I understand how you feel about Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram was drafted by the New Orleans Saints. I mean, he's been a New Orleans Saint his entire career, and we have seen the ups and the downs of Mark Ingram. We've seen him at his absolute worst when he first started out. Everybody was looking like, man, I think the Saints may have made a mistake. And we've seen him come on, later in his career. And I understand how you feel about it, because we don't just look at New Orleans Saints players as just players. We look at them as family. We do. I mean, it's no coincidence that when Reggie Bush come down and does like work with the NFL Network, people screaming out the window every time they see him chanting Reggie, Reggie. Reggie has played for several other NFL teams, but he's a Saint. You talk about people like Lance Moore. You talk about people like Pierre Thomas. We talk about all these other individuals that have played for the Saints. These guys are synonymous with the team. And I understand that's how you feel about Mark Ingram. Not to mention, that's the way the New Orleans culture is. And I know, because I'm from there. I mean, we love hard down in the city of New Orleans. We're forever family. I don't care. Like, if you meet somebody and you're not even in New Orleans, and you talk to one another, and you may say, hey, man, I'm from New Orleans. And then they might say, oh, no, nah. Man, you from New Orleans? Man, me too. But for real, man, it's like y'all family members or something. That's how we feel about the New Orleans Saints, and I know that's how some of you feel about Mark Ingram. But here's the harsh reality. The NFL is a business, and the New Orleans Saints have to do what's best for business. I mean, I get it. I get the whole chemistry aspect. Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, they're friends. Every time that you see one, you see the other. Every time there's a post-game interview, they do them together. There's always some kind of fun antics from those two answering each other's questions and putting on masks and stuff like that. I understand that. And all their interviews with Deion Sanders after the game, I understand. But once again, it is a business. And you have to ask yourself, is it a good business decision to re-sign Mark Ingram? And when I really think about it, when I really break it down, I really do not believe the New Orleans Saints should re-sign Mark Ingram. And I love Mark Ingram. I've always loved Mark Ingram. I love Mark Ingram even when he was playing for Alabama, man. I've always watched Mark Ingram. I watched him all throughout college. I didn't watch him all through the pros, but it is what it is. I'm looking at it from a business perspective. The Saints don't need to sign Mark Ingram, and I'm going to tell you why. The New Orleans Saints, one of their biggest advantages is now going to be one of their biggest liabilities. I'm going to say that again. One of the Saints' biggest advantages is now one of their biggest liabilities. The New Orleans Saints a couple years ago had the best draft class in the history of the NFL. I ain't just say of the New Orleans Saints. I said of the NFL. I have never seen a team draft so many rookies that contribute the way that Marcus Williams, Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Alex Anzalone, Trey Hendrickson, and Alvin Kamara. I have never seen a host of rookies come in and contribute like that. And then a year before that, you had Michael Thomas that came in, was a huge contributor to the Saints. Now, here's the problem. You got all of that talent. Eventually, you're going to have to pay those guys. And you're going to have to pay those guys a lot. A whole lot. A whole lot. Real talk, man. Do you think that all of the things that these players do, you don't think that they understand that their rookie contract is going to be up soon? And the more that they contribute to the team, the more their agent is going to ask for during negotiations. Michael Thomas, for example, he has more catches than any other wide receivers in the first 3 years of his career. Newsflash, when his contract is up, when his rookie contract is up, he's going to be the highest paid wide receiver in the National Football League. Oh, you better believe it. Marshawn Lattimore, Skip Bayless on Undisputed went out there and said that Marshawn Lattimore was the best cornerback in football. Now, Marshawn Lattimore shared that on his Twitter. Do you think that Marshawn Lattimore shared that on his Twitter because he wanted the Who Dat Nation to be proud of him? Hell no. He did it because when negotiation times come around, a lot of people watch Undisputed. A lot of people listen to Skip Bayless, rather they feel like he's full of bull or not. And for Skip Bayless to jump out the window and say something like that, somebody's listening. 9 times out of 10, when Marshawn Lattimore rookie contract is up, he's going to be the highest paid cornerback in the National Football League. Alvin Kamara putting up those huge numbers, took the NFL by storm. Offensive Rookie of the Year, 1,500 scrimmage yards in his rookie season. When his rookie contract is up, oh, trust and believe, he is going to be the highest paid running back in the National Football League. Ryan Ramczyk, the best young right tackle in the National Football League. Marcus Williams, one of the best young safeties in the National Football League. You're going to have to pay these guys. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, you look at some of those guys, well, they still got 2 or 3 years on their rookie contract. But teams ain't trying to allow these players to go out here and hear other negotiations. They want to wrap that stuff up right then and now. So what kind of contract can you offer Mark Ingram? I mean, Mark Ingram, I feel like he still has something left in the tank. So you know that he probably wants like a 2 or 3 year deal. And think about this. Next year, it's time for Michael Thomas to get paid. The year after that, it's time for Ramczyk, Marshawn Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, Marcus Williams, and Alex Anzalone to get paid. I'm sorry, Who Dat Nation, but look, as much as I love Mark Ingram, I don't want to lose any of that type of talent. That's why I believe that he should be a free agent. And I think that the Saints need to go and roll with Dewayne Washington, okay, the young kid out of Washington. I mean, y'all know y'all seen him in Week 17 against the Carolina Panthers. The guy had 11 carries for 102 yards. Every time I seen Dewayne Washington, rather it was in preseason or even in a regular season, he has contributed in some way, shape, or form. I watched this kid while he was at Washington. He can catch out of the backfield. And quite honestly, I feel like he's a little bit faster than Mark Ingram. He's around the same size as Mark Ingram. I think he's between like maybe that 220, 225 mark. And he's a humble kid. And I think that the Saints can use him as an every down back. I think that he will contribute to the team. And not to mention, I mean, he's still in the locker room. I mean, he's still around Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. So it's not like he's an outside guy. He's in the locker room. So a lot of people are talking about chemistry. He still has chemistry with those guys, man. You don't think people like Craig Robinson, a guy who plays on special team, and Chris Banjo, you don't think they have a good relationship with the rest of the team just because you probably don't see them playing all the defensive snaps? I mean, honestly, man, this is a locker room, man, a cohesive unit. So I don't feel like just because Mark Ingram is gone and Dewayne Washington takes his spot, Alvin Kamara is going to feel some type of way about it. Alvin Kamara understands that it's a business. If you talk to any NFL player out there, they'll tell you that it's a business. And I think that we as the Who Dat Nation need to understand that too, that it's a business. Now, I understand this may not be the most popular thing to say. And I understand that some people might not agree with my philosophy when it comes to Mark Ingram, but it is what it is, man. The Saints have to continue to play down the line. The wheels got to keep on turning, and the organization has to go on. One day, there's not going to be a Drew Brees. There's not going to be a Cam Jordan. There's not going to be a Mark Ingram. And this organization is going to have to still continue. And these young players that the Saints have can lead them to where they need to be. But unfortunately, it may not include Mark Ingram. But this has been the State of the Saints podcast. Check out the State of the Saints podcast on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search the State of the Saints podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. Also, check out the State of the Saints podcast on Facebook. Facebook.com, search the State of the Saints podcast. And the podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.com. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?